My friends, I want to thank you for watching this video. I want to thank all of my subscribers for their support. And now that I've sounded the alarm about people being unsubscribed from my channel without their knowledge, people are coming forward in the comment sections of my video letting me know they've been unsubscribed 5 times in the last few months. In an election year, the algorithm aggressively targets certain channels, strangling their views and subtracting subscribers, so don't let YouTube pull this on you. Also, I want to thank everyone who left a super thanks on my last video, and moving forward, I promise to respond personally to every super thanks just as I respond to every super chat in my live streams. Merry Christmas, folks! God bless us, everyone! And now, on to the video. My friends, I have seen Rebel Moon. There seems to be a wide variety of opinions about this latest project by Zack Snyder, and so I think I should go ahead and give my 2 cents about it. In this video, I will try to answer a few questions. Is Rebel Moon woke? Is it better than Disney Star Wars? Is it badly written? And is Rebel Moon worth a look? I'm going to give my opinion on whether or not I liked Rebel Moon towards the end of this video, mainly because I'm conflicted about this heavily edited first part of an incomplete movie. And I think that working through these other questions will help me clarify my own feelings on the matter and allow you to make up your own minds about this controversial project. We will be discussing this live tonight on Pop Culture Breakdown at 7 p.m. Central, so you'll be able to get a wide variety of opinions there as well. But first things first, let's tackle these questions in order. Is Rebel Moon woke? My answer is no. While it is diverse and does feature a female lead, it is not woke in my opinion. And I think the discussion of why it is not woke is worthwhile because there's a lot of confusion about what constitutes wokeness in the fandom. And at the very least, I'd like to explain my criteria for what is woke and what isn't. It's true that Rebel Moon Part 1 has a very diverse cast of all sexes and shades of humanity. Yes, it is true that the main bad guy is a white male, so on the surface, this does give the appearance of being woke if you calculate it out strictly by the numbers. However, to be woke, there needs to be a hatred and mistreatment of white characters, particularly white male characters. Usually in a woke movie, you have a lead stunning, brave woman who is clearly the bestest ever, usually for no goddamn clear reason in the story other than having ovaries. This stunning and brave woman doesn't need any men, hogs all the glory, and repeatedly shows up and puts down her male counterparts, allies, and adversaries alike. This is not the case here. In this sci-fi remake of The Magnificent Seven, Cora, the lead female, is revealed in her history to be a woman who has earned her advanced skills by a lifetime of hard training in the homeworld military, personally adopted as a young girl by the Supreme Commander himself after he murdered her family. It shows her suffering, her pain, as she sees her white male lover, yes, she's not a lesbian, gasp, dying by her side in battle. It shows how fucked up she is, that she willingly participated in fighting for the very military that murdered her family. Because of this backstory, I can accept that Cora is an elite trained fighter in the same way I can accept that Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley are badass mofos, and thus I have no problem with rooting for her to succeed. Unlike Mikey Spock or the amazing Wonder Ray, the bestest evers, Cora is not a one-woman army of stunning, bright perfection. No, in her quest to stop an invasion of her adopted homeworld after she defects from the Mother World service, she goes about recruiting strong men and women as much-needed allies, and each one of them is depicted as being supremely capable and excellent in their respective specialties. Cora never puts any of the men in their place, never insults a one of them. Even the weakest male of the bunch a farmer from her adopted agrarian homeworld who has never fought a day in his life and is clearly the weakest of the bunch. Indeed, one signal that this movie is not woke is when Gunnar displays heroism by putting himself on the line to save a child, and while I do not want to give away any major spoilers here, Gunnar plays a pivotal role down the line. And instead of mocking Gunnar's weakness, Cora expresses admiration for his courage and compassion, something that Mikey Spock would never do. Every one of these characters has moments of great courage and competence, and it's refreshing to say the least. Yes, Admiral Atticus Noble, brilliantly played by a genuinely twisted Ed Skrein, is a villainous white male, and yet what is his first act of villainy on screen? Killing the admirable lead of the farmers, who is also a white male. Gunnar, who is praised for his courage and compassion, is also a white male. So these divisions of sex and race, hero and villain, are meaningless in this case. There is no wokeness here because there is no hatred of any character based on the color of their skin or the contents of their pants. Wokeness, my friends, is diversity plus hatred. That's what really defines woke in my book. The Expanse was the most diverse show I've ever seen, but there is never any putting down of a character based on their race or gender, and that's why it is not woke. Holden is a noble, heroic figure, and none of the strong women of the cast of The Expanse has to put him down in order to make themselves seem better. Rebel Moon, in this respect, is the same. Therefore, I was able to enjoy this show without feeling outrage at the typical disgusting wokeness, and that alone is a reason to check this out. Which leads to the next question: is Rebel Moon better than Disney Star Wars? Ha! Folks, Rebel Moon is vastly superior to Disney Star Wars. While there have been a few shining moments for Disney Star Wars solely because of Jon Favreau hitting some high water marks with The Mandalorian, particularly at the end of Season 2 with the return of Luke Skywalker, which was so damn good it briefly gave Disney the chance to save Star Wars. A chance they flushed down the toilet after pissing all over it with Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, and other floating turds. Rebel Moon is superior to Disney Star Wars in pretty much every possible way. It is supremely ironic, given the historical technical expertise of Lucasfilm and Disney in terms of creating superior effects, that Rebel Moon is a visual feast compared to the drab, lifeless, boring-ass bullshit that is the hallmark of Disney Star Wars. Rebel Moon is visually fresh and exciting by comparison for the stale leftovers regularly offered up to the few remaining Star Wars fans on Disney+. The Black Griffin alone was worth watching. The ship designs, the warrior robot turned pacifist after the murder of the royal family, their take on lightsabers that leave trails in the air, all of this put Disney Star Wars to even greater shame than they put themselves. While many have criticized the writing on Rebel Moon, and I will get to that in a second here, I have to say I found the writing to be much better than the shit scripts of 95% of Disney Star Wars. Which leads naturally to my next question: is the Rebel Moon script good or crap? Folks, here's where I tell you truthfully, I can't say at this point. No one can legitimately say whether or not this script is gold or garbage at this point, because at least a third of the script is missing. It has been cut out. We have no idea what the actual finished script plays like, because holy shit, folks, Rebel Moon Part 1 is exactly half of a complete story, and worse, about a third of the story has been cut out of the first half of the story. That is one seriously compromised script. And as a result, the first part of the movie is very choppy. I can tell you, as a writer myself, I could always pinpoint exactly where the cuts were made. And the stuff that was cut almost always seemed to be character moments. Character moments that fleshed out the story, fleshed out the universe, and fleshed out the characters themselves, their motivations, their backgrounds, their humanity, all left on the cutting room floor. If there were any funny character moments like in Star Wars Episode 4, they were yanked too. Because shit, when you have to trim down 3 hours into 2 hours, all you can do is leave the parts necessary to advance the plot. What Netflix is presenting to us is a heavily edited work in progress, and it's inaccurate, if not unfair to Zack Snyder, to pass any kind of final judgment on the script at this time. Now, as far as what we saw of the highly cut down version, the script is choppy. It moves from one recruiting sequence to another, and there's very little personality to it and almost no humor. It's like Disney Star Wars in that regard. I suspect, though this is just my gut feeling at this point, that a lot of the personality and depth was left on the proverbial cutting room floor. Now, who is to blame for this idiotic decision to present a heavily edited version of half of a fucking movie? It's probably Netflix, thinking people won't want to devote 3 hours to watching something on a holiday weekend, but it is also possible it was Zack Snyder who wanted to do the whole Justice League director's cut thing again. My relationship with Snyder is complicated, folks. Now, I'm not one of these Snyder acolytes who thinks his shit doesn't stink in a slaughterhouse. Far from it. I hated his take on DC superheroes, my friends. I couldn't get through Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, and yet I thought his 4-hour Justice League cut was pretty much flawless. I'm no Snyder fan or apologist. I view the guy like any other filmmaker, and I have no skin or agenda in the game. The ultimate question you want to know is, did I enjoy Rebel Moon, and is it worth a look? My friends, film criticism is an art, not a science. Opinions and experiences are extremely subjective, and I suspect, of course, and therefore that means that my experience watching Rebel Moon will be different than yours. But I must say, given all of that, I enjoyed watching Rebel Moon Part 1. I suspect that my enjoyment was strongly influenced by the fact that I was watching something kick Disney Star Wars ass up and down the street wearing dirty Doc Marten boots, and I found a lot of joy in that. A hell of a lot of satisfaction watching Disney Star Wars get its ass handed to it by these interlopers. Certainly, there was nothing in Rebel Moon Part 1 as insulting as what they did to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Boba Fett, and the fact I wasn't seeing wokeness in it made me breathe easy and just be able to sit back and watch without my head wanting to explode. Does that mean that Rebel Moon Part 1 was good? Well, as I said, the characters are lightly sketched and the script was kind of choppy. I can't talk about the flaws that I did see specifically in the show because I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I will say that certain aspects of the plot are a bit suspect, especially a climactic action scene towards the end involving Gunner that kind of didn't make a lot of sense. It was one of these kind of wishful thinking escapes from a pretty impossible trap, and that's all I will say about it. But for all of these criticisms, I must say that I enjoyed Rebel Moon Part 1 for the very subjective reasons I gave above, and I will not argue with anybody who hated this. I think it really depends on your point of view. I could easily detect where they cut things in the script. I can see where those parts would likely flesh out the characters and smooth out the choppy script. In short, I can't give a complete and fair review until I see the complete 3-hour version Zack Snyder made. In short, Rebel Moon Part 1 is not woke in my opinion, although it is diverse with a female lead. The visuals are excellent, the acting is pretty good, and it does have some nice action sequences in the traditional Zack Snyder style. My hands-down favorite scene in this show was Anthony Hopkins as the robot, a former Mother World warrior who laid down his arms and refused to fight again after the royal family was slaughtered and his honor was lost. The scene between him and the young woman down by the river is one of my favorite scenes I've seen all year. So if you want to see something far better and less insulting than Star Wars, Even though it is a flawed take on the Magnificent Seven, and incomplete at that, I recommend you check it out and judge for yourself. Or, at the very least, check out the complete 3-hour version of Rebel Moon whenever it gets released. There's some interesting stuff in there. From the center of the earth, this is Victor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Ha 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 ha.